At dawn in the South Pacific, Japanese sailors scanned the horizon and felt a familiar confidence. Their convoys had sailed these waters for months, escorted by destroyers and watched over by fighters. To them, American airpower seemed clumsy. High-flying bombers dropped strings of bombs that rarely came close to moving ships. Torpedo planes demanded long, obvious attack runs, easy for gunners to shoot apart. Japanese doctrine was clear. Disciplined fire, evasive turns, and courage would defeat air raids. What they could not imagine was that an American fighter, with its twin engines and long range, would rewrite the rules. The aircraft was the Lockheed P-38 Lightning. It looked nothing like the sleek single-engine fighters of the time. Its twin booms and central cockpit gave it a menacing silhouette. Armed with 4 50-caliber machine guns and a 20mm cannon, all mounted in the nose, it could pour concentrated firepower with deadly accuracy. But its real advantage was range. Where other American fighters could barely escort bombers beyond coastal waters, the Lightning could fly deep into Japanese territory, strike without warning, and vanish before defenders could react. For the Japanese, the shock came not just from the aircraft's speed or guns, but from its reach. Bases they believed safe suddenly found themselves under attack. Convoys that thought they had hours of warning discovered lightnings diving on them out of empty sky. The very concept of secure rear areas crumbled the moment the P-38 arrived in the Pacific. The Lightning's story began in the late 1930s, when the U.S. Army Air Corps sought a high-altitude interceptor. Lockheed engineers, led by Clarence Kelly Johnson, produced a radical design. Twin engines with turbo-superchargers, counter-rotating propellers, and heavy firepower clustered in the nose. When America entered the war, the P-38 was one of the fastest fighters in the world, able to climb higher and fly farther than almost anything in Japanese service. In Europe, it earned mixed reviews, but in the Pacific, its unique qualities made it indispensable. The first major test came in the skies over New Guinea in 1942. Japanese bombers and fighters had dominated the region, operating from strongholds like Rabaul. American pilots flying P-39s and P-40s struggled. Their planes lacked range and climb, forcing them to fight at a disadvantage. When the P-38 arrived, everything changed. Suddenly, American squadrons could engage Japanese formations at altitude, using the Lightning's climb to dictate the fight. Pilots discovered that the concentrated nose guns made gunnery simpler. No need for wing convergence, just point the nose and fire. Japanese fighters built for agility could turn tighter, but they could not outrun or outgun the Lightning. One Japanese pilot who survived an encounter later recalled the terror of seeing tracers converging in a solid stream from incredible distance. The cannon shells and heavy bullets chewed through fragile Zero fighters, often destroying them with a single burst. American crews soon realized they could strike from high altitude, dive through formations, and climb away before the enemy recovered. The Lightning proved equally deadly against shipping. Flying low over the sea, pilots unleashed their guns into transport decks, tearing through crews before dropping bombs with frightening accuracy. Convoys that had once expected only high-altitude raids now faced strafing attacks delivered with speed and precision. Survivors described the distinctive shape of the twin-boom fighters racing in at mast height, their cannon flashing, their 50 calibers hammering decks until men and equipment were shredded. Perhaps the most famous demonstration of the P-38's reach came in April 1943. American codebreakers learned that Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Pearl Harbor, planned an inspection tour of bases in the Solomon Islands. His itinerary was precise: departure time, route, and arrival. Normally, the Japanese fleet commander could travel safely, confident that no American fighter could reach so far into enemy territory. but the Lightning could. On the morning of April 18th, 18 P-38s flew nearly 600 miles, skimming the waves to avoid detection. Right on schedule, they intercepted Yamamoto's formation of bombers and Zero escorts. In minutes, the admiral's aircraft was shot down, and Japan lost its most respected naval leader. The mission, known as Operation Vengeance, stunned the Japanese. They never expected American fighters to reach so deep or strike with such precision. After Yamamoto's death, the P-38 gained a fearsome reputation. Japanese troops began reporting sudden lightning attacks on convoys, bases, and patrol aircraft. Unlike other fighters, the Lightning could patrol for hours, making ambushes possible in places once thought safe. Pilots used its endurance to stalk shipping lanes, striking at transports far from cover. Crews recalled seeing white trails on the horizon, only to realize moments later that twin-boom fighters were already diving on them. For Allied pilots, the aircraft became both weapon and symbol. They gave their Lightnings names and painted noses with sharks, dice, or pin-up girls. They learned to use boom and zoom tactics, avoiding turning fights, and instead relying on speed, firepower, and surprise. Many top American aces in the Pacific, including Richard Bong and Thomas Maguire, scored the majority of their victories in P-38s. Bong alone destroyed 40 enemy aircraft, often by stalking Japanese formations until he could deliver a single devastating burst. Japanese commanders tried to adapt. More fighters were assigned to escort convoys, and radar stations were expanded. But the Lightning's range meant it could attack from unexpected directions, often arriving from over the sea where no radar covered. Defenders scrambled too late, arriving only after ships were already burning. The psychological toll grew heavy. Sailors and soldiers began calling the Lightning the Two-Tailed Devil, a nickname that reflected both its shape and its lethality. As the war moved north through the Solomons and into the Philippines, the Lightning remained at the forefront. Its ability to carry drop tanks allowed it to escort bombers on deep strikes, something no other American fighter could manage at the time. Bombers that once suffered terrible losses now had protection, and Japanese air strength began to collapse under relentless pressure. On the ground, P-38s strafed airfields, destroying rows of aircraft before they could even take off. Reports from surviving Japanese pilots describe the helplessness of watching their comrades' planes explode on the runway as lightnings swept over at treetop level. The Lightning also played a crucial role in disrupting Japanese resupply. Convoys attempting to run the gauntlet to New Guinea or the Philippines were hunted not only by submarines and bombers, but by these fighters, which could appear from nowhere and disappear just as quickly. Combined with American code-breaking, the long reach of the P-38 meant few Japanese ships could move without risk of sudden attack. Technically, the aircraft had its flaws. Compressibility problems in dives made recovery difficult. Its size made it less nimble in close combat. Maintenance was demanding in tropical conditions, but in the environment of the Pacific, its advantages outweighed its weaknesses. The long distances between islands, the need for endurance, and the fragility of Japanese aircraft created the perfect stage for the Lightning's strengths. By 1944, the sight of twin contrails high above islands or the roar of engines at sea level struck fear across Japanese forces. Bases once bustling with activity became quiet when Lightnings prowled overhead. Soldiers learned to scatter at the sound, knowing that staying in groups only drew fire. For American pilots, confidence grew. They felt they had an aircraft that gave them superiority in almost every encounter. The legacy of the Lightning extended beyond numbers. It embodied the American ability to adapt technology to the vastness of the Pacific. Where other fighters faltered, the P-38 thrived. Its twin engines provided safety for long flights over open ocean. Its firepower turned fleeting opportunities into kills. Its range allowed missions thought impossible. And above all, it delivered shock. Again and again, Japanese convoys, airfields, and commanders were caught off guard, struck by lightnings they never expected to see. By the end of the war, the P-38 had destroyed thousands of Japanese aircraft and ships. Its pilots included the highest-scoring American aces. Its missions ranged from the Yamamoto interception to strafing attacks that shattered supply lines. For Japanese survivors, the memory of its twin booms and concentrated fire remained vivid long after the guns fell silent. Japan never expected fighters to strike so far, so fast, and with such devastating results. But the Lightning was built for just that. It turned the Pacific into a hunting ground where no convoy was safe, no base beyond reach, and no commander untouchable. In the story of World War II, the P-38 stands as a symbol of innovation and reach, the fighter that came from nowhere and left devastation in its wake.